Next on The Professional Rule Breaker.
Hi, my name is Lameen, CEO of Honest Management. And if you really want to learn how to think outside the box and ignite your business and life, you should be listening to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. I do, and you should do too.
Well, welcome everyone to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Walterhouse, and yes, I am known as the Professional Rule Breaker. And today we have a very special guest. My next guest is a Nobel Peace Prize winner with over 20 years of experience working in management in the United Kingdom, in United Nations, in think tanks, as well as financial institutes. And he actually helped establish a hospital, a cancer hospital in 2007 that treats over 1,500 cancer patients a year. So that alone is such a big accomplishment. But of course, this man is not done. He wants to impact 1 billion people's lives positively over the next 10 years. And so that is a huge goal. And he's about to launch the world's first network for honest people. Honest people. I love that. And it's called Honest Management. And he's the CEO of it. And on top of that, he loves coffee. And he's been passionately writing about coffee in his blog for 15 years. And in his honor today, I actually have my very own cup of coffee. So I want to welcome my friend, Lameen Abdul-Malik. So welcome, my friend, to the show.
So, Kathy, thanks a lot.
So I'm really excited to have you here. I mean, you are such a kind man. And of course, you're doing something called that has to do with honest people, which I absolutely love. But before we go into that, I know you and I had some discussions, and I think it's really important in the beginning of the year, especially for a lot of entrepreneurs, to hear about, because I find this is something that sometimes, I wouldn't say necessarily people struggle with, but they don't put it right in the forefront of everything that they do. And it is knowing their why. So let's talk about that. Why is it important, first off?
Thanks a lot, Kathy. I always think that the concept of knowing your why relates back to your purpose in life. It's like channeling through life without your North Star or without a compass. So you imagine a ship in the ocean just saying, we're going to get onto the ship, but we don't know where we're going. Or you get into your car in the morning and you say, I don't know where I'm going. Even if you don't have Google Maps, you also have some kind of virtual compass about what you're trying to do with your life. And I think that relates to our own personal lives and goals, what we're trying to do on a daily basis with our lives. Sometimes that gets mapped out by society or what you've read or through relationships saying that you should be like this, you should not do this, you shouldn't do that. But of course, that's subjective to other people's compasses, and everybody, I believe, has an individual compass. If you follow the compass of a train going to New York, where you want to go to Philadelphia, and someone says, no, you should go to New York, but you say, no, I actually go to Philadelphia. Let's say, for example, you live in Philadelphia and you go to New York, you're not going to end up being home. Of course, if you're not home, you're going to be completely a little bit deranged and out of sorts. So I believe that the concept of knowing your why, knowing your purpose should relate to every aspect of your life, relationships, even if you're in the work, whether you want to start on an entrepreneurial journey, for example. I think that's very important that you know where you're going. And I think once you do that, then you say, okay, let me at least try my best to get to that direction. So if you need to travel 10,000 miles, obviously if you try and walk, you're going to be exhausted. Perhaps you need to take a train, perhaps you need to take a plane. So you get to your journey properly on time and not exhausted.
So I love a couple of things that you said. First off, you if you don't know your why and you end up somewhere else, you might be deranged. And, as I'm laughing about that, not that I'm deranged in any shape or form, but I think sometimes people do go on a different path, right? Than really what their why is. And then they get to a point in their life and they're completely unsatisfied, they're unhappy. They don't want to do what it is that they want to do every single day. So how can people find their why? Because I think there's a bit of a struggle there, because I think, in my viewpoint, people don't want to take the time to find their why.
Yeah, exactly. There's different ways of looking at it. Obviously, there are spiritual ways of finding your why, for example. That one might be a little bit easier for some people. So whether you're following a path or religion or some kind of spiritual path, then sometimes there are some answers within that. The answers might be there and there might be something for you to do, for example. Like even if you look at Google Maps, it says, how can you get from A to B? It might give you 3 or 4 options. Sometimes it might take longer, it might take an extra 10 minutes, it might take 20 minutes. But I think that if you have some kind of direction, then the second challenge is saying, okay, I know where I'm trying to go, but how do I get there? Or how can I get there in a way that's beneficial for me as well? And I think everybody ideally should have that kind of introspection within themselves. They did a study, which was a little bit worrying, and they asked, I think, a cross section of men and women, would you prefer to spend 10 minutes of your day thinking about your life, or would you prefer to have an electric shock? Now, sadly, 60% of men said, I'll just prefer the electric shock. 30% of women said they would prefer the electric shock. But
Why?
I was quite bothered by that. I was like, 10 minutes in a day is like nothing. I mean, for you just to sit down, just think about where I'm going. And sometimes some people talk about meditation, but if you just spend 10 minutes and don't put any pressure on yourself, just sit down on your bed or sit down in your office or maybe in some kind of in the park, for example, just let your mind flow. Is this what I wanted to do? Is what I wanted to do? How do I feel about this? I'm not saying you're going to have all the answers within 10 minutes. That's impossible. But at least, you're engaging something else within yourself, whether it's your spiritual aspect or your mental health or some kind of emotion within yourself that can motivate you, because it's very difficult for someone to actually physically motivate you unless you obviously there's a lion coming towards you.
Right? Coming towards you and you got to run.
Then you've got to run. But most motivation really has to start from within yourself. It definitely has to start from within yourself. And you have to take that kind of first step or that second step. And then sometimes I really believe there are people around in the world that can help you, but you have to make that first step. Say, okay, I want to change. I want to go back to that path that I dreamt about when I was a little child. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be an artist. How can I start that path? And sometimes when people ask me for advice, I always say to them, have some kind of daily or weekly connection with that path or that passion that you had, whether it's even if you want to be an artist, just on the weekend, spend half an hour or 1 hour just, drawing, for example. And I believe it really reawakens something within your soul. And say, oh, I'm enjoying this. I really love this. And maybe you go into the state of a flow, where a state of a flow is you spend hours, you don't even know what happened in those hours. But I really believe you have to have some kind of connection with something that you're really passionate about, that you really love and you thought about as a child. The other thing people always ask me is like, oh, can you give me some career advice? And sometimes I say to them, what did you love before you were 10 years old? And they kind of look at me in a positive way and say, what is that going to do with anything? I said, well, because usually before you were 10 years old, we were kind of almost unadulterated in a way. They say the birth of passion is curiosity, and curiosity is linked to your childhood.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Love that. Hey there, I'm all about making a big difference, making this really big impact. So I am so thrilled to introduce to you today's podcast sponsor. They are the very last U.S. family-owned manufacturer of consumer goods products that you use every single day and you run out of them every single day. And on top of that, their products are healthier and safer for you, and they have been made here in the great USA. My family made the switch, and I am so happy that we did, and so is everyone else in the family, because the products are amazing. So while these big giant corporations are just getting bigger and so many small businesses are really struggling to survive, why not help me in rooting for the underdog? And you know, I'm all about the underdog instead of these giant 11 conglomerates that control 97% of the North American consumer goods market. So if you're ready to make a difference and switch away to something bigger and better, go to switchaway.com/rule breaker, drop your information, and one of my friends will reach out to you directly. And let's all switch away together to better quality products that are healthier and safer for you and support family-owned businesses, because together we can rewrite the business landscape and make a difference one person at a time.
I can't remember why I've read that before, but that quote, I was like, wow, that the birth of passion is curiosity, and curiosity usually comes from your childhood, where you keep on asking your parents or people around you, why? And so actually, that why, actually, I love that. Actually, I want to do this. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a pilot, or I want to climb mountains. I want to do this and that, or I want to own a restaurant. I want to cook. I want to serve people. And then, but sometimes you say, oh no, you can't make a living from that. It's really too difficult. You've got to do something completely different. And you go off to this other path. And then before you wake up, maybe 30, 40 years time, if you're lucky, some people don't actually wake up from that slumber. Then you think, I want to go back. I want to at least have a go at doing that, have an attempt at, that path that I dreamt about before I was 10 years old.
Oh my goodness. It's so thought-provoking. First off, that the birth of passion is in curiosity. I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that really, because I think even just by asking the question why, in anything that you do, I'm big about asking the question why, because I don't think things should necessarily be a status quo. It always be the same because it was always done that way. Because I always think there's better ways of doing that. And the way you can get to that is the why.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, when you think about the things that you loved before you were 10,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that light and that joy from that. It was before maybe the baggage and all the things that people said to you about exactly what you said. No, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to be able to make money doing that, or perhaps it's silly or something like that. So a little bit of your soul, if you don't do it, I think gets killed off.
Yes.
And then if
Definitely.
you can go back to it, which I absolutely adore, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. And my audience probably, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be an actor. But my parents were more about, you got to do something serious, be a doctor, a lawyer. So I ended up going into the corporate world, which, I think everything always happens for a reason. And I ended up becoming a sales expert, obviously. But a little part of me always wanted to go back because was able to dabble in it when I was younger. And a little part of me always wanted to go back. And just by chance, I ended up in a commercial, in a theme park commercial here in the United States. And it just reignited that passion. So I have the best of both worlds, and I can bring the best of both worlds to all of my clients too, because I can still do the creative. I am a professional actress. I do that as well. I do it part-time, but yet those skills that I have learned being an actress really help out in the entrepreneurial world, which is kind of crazy that it does. But so much of that creativity and putting yourself in your customer's shoes, because in acting, that's exactly what you do. You get a part and you're no longer you anymore. You are that person. So if that person's having a really bad day, or somebody's trying to kill them, or they're really a terrible person, that's who you become for that very short window. So it's the same thing with your customer, is you get to know your customer really well. And then maybe as you're living as your customer, you kind of find their why as well. But I love how you said how important it is to spend that time finding your why. So, wow. I know you said that you want to become a billionaire. So tell me about that, Lameen.
Well, so you touched a little bit on it on the introduction, and I thought my concept of a billionaire is someone that wants to have a positive impact on 1 billion people's lives, not necessarily the monetary value of it. Of course, if you impact people's lives and become a billionaire from that monetary, that's fantastic. If you create the next vaccine for the next pandemic, for example,
Mhm.
and you sell 1 billion of that for $1, you become a billionaire. But I think the concept of I think we just crossed 8 billion people on the planet, I think last week. And I think that, going back to the concept of when we don't exist as an island with 8 billion people, there's a lot of people on the planet. And if you can give back somehow to whether it's the next person, either your neighbor or someone you meet on the street, it all starts like that, like a pebble in the river. You throw one and they see what happens with that. So the concept of having an impact on 1 billion people's lives, a billionaire, is not something again that I can do by myself. So the idea is to work with like-minded people that say, okay, we want to have an impact, whether it's to do with climate change or health, providing health for as many people in the world as possible, because I believe the most important thing to start off with any human being is actually health. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're feeling sick, or if you have a stomachache or you have a headache, you don't even want to get out of bed. So you're not going to be able to chase your dreams. So, whether it's to do with something to do with health related, providing food for people, having a much more easier way to get food for people. Gandhi said famously that there's enough in the world for everybody, but it's not enough in the world for everybody's greed. So in terms of need, there's a lot of stuff that is available. If you look at food, for example, we already throw away, I think, $300 billion of food on an annual basis. So definitely there's enough food on the planet. But what is happening that food is being wasted? Is this something that technology can solve? So the idea, behind a billionaire is to have a positive impact on 1 billion people's lives, working with like-minded people, because it's not something I believe any individual can do. So I just kind of like put that messaging across. And of course, hopefully people who are drawn to that message, we can all work together because everybody has different ideas and we can have that in a fertile environment that we can take this to have an impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. I think it's, at least for me, it's always been about making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that they can't make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
But you can make one person, even if you make an impact on another individual, you don't know where that's going to go. You could be impacting the next president, the next, world leader, whatever it might be, or the next person that discovers the cure for cancer, or
Exactly.
whatever it might be. So yes. So if you put that your foot forward every single day and just try to make some sort of difference in the world, imagine if we all did that together,
Yeah,
what that would do.
definitely. Yes.
Yes. So tell me about why you started your newest, or it's coming up, your newest company, Honest Management Company.
That name actually came about from my last year or so in the corporate world, so to speak. And I just started seeing a lot of dishonest management. You know? And I just
I'm
myself,
biting my tongue.
and, it kind of bothered me because I was a senior professional. I kind of spoke my mind anyway. So I wasn't really bothered senior people like mismanaging their positions. But I just thought the impact it has on people's lives. Someone goes to work, they have a really bad day at the office, either their boss shouts at them or tries to do something behind their back. I mean, they sometimes they're not able to control their emotions. They take their emotions back. There's no perfect human being on this planet. You take your emotions back to home, your innocent spouse or children or whatever, if you have any, uh, they suffer from that consequence. So the concept of dishonest management is having a negative impact on people's lives. I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. If I'm going to have a company, I'm going to call it honest management, like being honest about doing things properly. And I did like a series, I think, on LinkedIn back in 2019, just like what an honest manager should be. An honest manager should never have favorites. An honest manager should always admit when they don't know something and ask people for help. They shouldn't have this arrogant attitude. An honest manager should promote other people who are doing good work, always encourage their staff, show a bit of empathy when they say, hello, how are you? They should really mean it. And then they'll take that feedback back. So I did like a series of 10 things on LinkedIn, like what an honest manager should be like. So that was kind of the birth of it. So I started using the hashtag honest management. And then when I moved to Dubai, I was creating the company, and the guy said to me, "What do you want to call your company?" And I said, "Actually, honest management." He said, "Oh, that's a nice name." I said, "I can't think of anything better to put down." And the idea is helping clients from an honest perspective, not just looking at making a quick buck, but just saying, "Well, do you really need this system? I can advise you to have a much better informed negotiation with clients. Just ask them one or two questions. Do you really need this?" One of my business partner, like he used to work in the IT area, and he would go and meet some clients, and the clients would say, "Oh, we want the best equipment." And he would say to them, "There's only 10 of you in this company. Why do you need a system for 10,000 people?" So of course they might not even need it, but he's not thinking about, making money for his company. He's thinking, well, you don't need that equipment. The analogy I always like to use is like someone says, "Oh, I need to take my kids to school faster, so buy a Ferrari." Well, the Ferrari is faster than a normal SUV, but you can't put four people into the car, so you don't need a Ferrari. You need a
And
I
there's
don't
always
know.
speed limits too.
Exactly. So going back to that, and then the other aspect of honest management relates to the concept of being honest with yourself. Being honest with yourself, going back to the concept we talked about, your why, for example, because nobody's really going to lead your life better than you. That's why I really believe that everybody should have some concept and believe that they are a leader in some way. You don't have to be a leader of a company, but a leader of your life. So be honest with yourself about the life that you need to lead, and at least have a go at that life. They've done a lot of studies. I'm sure you've heard of the studies that the one regret of people dying is, "I wish I had done this instead of that." And I always think to myself, if we know this, why are we heading
Why
down
aren't
that
we
road?
doing it? Right?
Exactly. You want to
Well,
be
it's
one of the
because they think they can't,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And maybe it's things that they were told sometime in their life,
yeah,
or yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. I love everything that you said. I mean, first off, business should always be run honestly.
yeah,
And unfortunately, it's not necessarily that way. But I find that if you are in that situation, you need to make a change somehow,
yeah,
whether by, speaking with the people that surround you, or even just making a change, trying to remove yourself from that environment. And the second thing about that too is I always feel, maybe because I've always been in sales and I've been very fortunate to be able to sell a lot. I always feel that the more honest you are with your customers, the more they're going to trust you. And
yeah,
then in turn, eventually, they're either going to refer more people to you or they're going to buy more from you because they trust you. And people buy from people that they trust and people that they like. And, trying to get that fast buck in a sale, I always find is death. It really is. There's a couple of sales gurus out there that is what they teach, is
yeah,
to pressure people to sell. And it doesn't matter if they're helping someone or not. But why would you want to do something that's not helping someone?
yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, you're the expert sales professional, but I just read this morning a summary of, I think it's Robert Cialdini, the guy that wrote the six about persuasion. And one
Mhm.
of them is that about liking. People buy or connect with people that they like.
Mhm.
So if they don't like you, then they tend to be a little bit. No one likes to be around who they don't like anyway.
Isn't that true? Because
So I
if
mean,
you are, then you're like not happy, more than likely, right?
exactly, and that's correct. And that's why one of the things we created here just recently was called the Honest Network. I think you talked about it in the introduction. Was having a network where you're in a new city and you want to be around people that are honest, of course, because sometimes you get pressured if you're in a new city and a new job to hang around with people that you actually really don't like, and then they interact with your family and your kids don't really like their kids because they don't have the same value system, and it just puts pressure on the family and on you, and like, okay, we're going out for drinks, and you're like, oh, I don't really want to go out for drinks with those guys because I know what they're going to talk about. I want to talk about completely different things. I want to be in a different environment. I want to go for coffee instead. Coffee and cake. Yeah, I think if you can have a kind of ecosystem where everybody's supporting people, and that goes back to one of the things I always believe you should at least try. Just give it a shot. And definitely, as you're a professional salesperson, you'll know that some things work, some things don't work. But at least you gave your best effort, and you can live with yourself. You can live with your heart. You can say, okay, I tried my best. It didn't work out, but it's fine. At least I tried my best. Because the worst thing is like, oh, I wish I had done that. I should have done it 10 years ago. I should have, regret is not a very pleasant thing to have on your brain, as far as I know. I think it
Absolutely not.
has health effects. Health, yeah, it actually affects your health in a bad way as well. I think there's some studies on that as well.
So, how can people get involved in the Honest Network? How does that work?
Yeah, so we've just launched it initially in Dubai at the moment. We do have one person that interviewed this week that doesn't live in Dubai, but she just wants to hang around us. The reason why we're launching it in Dubai initially is that we want to have also face-to-face interactions, and we believe that for us to be able to give people that kind of benefit, we want them to be able to interact with us on a face-to-face basis. I mean, the two main things of the Honest Network is looking at mentorship and what you can also benefit from that. Typically what happens is that people compare dishonest skilled people with honest unskilled people.
Mm.
So what we're trying to do in the network when you join the network is offer you upskilling, so like presentation skills. I'm also doing my entrepreneurship mindset course actually for the people in the network, just giving like a short intro, 20-minute presentation, then 15, 20 minutes discussion and questions. Also, we're looking at social hubs as well. And hopefully the lady that's joining us this week from Greece, she's a wellness and health specialist. She's a specialist in that area, just to motivate people, help them with goal setting. We do have four criteria to join. So it's not just about paying for the network. You have to be referred by someone within the network. We have a little 10 question test. Then we ask you what's your definition of
Are you
honesty.
honest? Yes or no?
Well, just for you to define what does honesty mean to you, and there's some really good, really intriguing answers. And then the final thing is either myself or my business partner actually interviews you for 20 minutes, just to
Okay.
ask you how you want to join the network, how will it benefit you, for example, because the network is only as strong as the people that are in the network.
It's the
It's not
people
about
in it. Yes.
yeah, it's not about me saying, oh, the network's not about me. It's about the people in the network. So people might like things in the network. For example, social hub. Someone might love hiking. I know I don't love hiking. If you want to grab a coffee every Saturday, I'll be there, but I'm not going to climb up a mountain. But if people in the network, they say, no, I love hiking. Maybe other people on the network love hiking, so they can go and hiking as well. So it's just to create that platform and bring like-minded people together, and they can support one another. Maybe you want to have a job portal as well. Maybe hire honest people. Also deal with honest people, because a lot of things happen in businesses, as you know, is very dishonest people. They get cheated, and they lose millions. So if they can come into a network that says, okay, you pay a marginal fee per month, and okay, I know this person's the network. Maybe I can trust this person, and hopefully it will
Right.
work out. This takes a lot of that headache, from you.
Right. And hopefully with something like that, it'll help people lower like the guards, the things that they have in front of them, because they have been in the company of dishonest people or have worked for a dishonest company. So if you can get together a group of like-minded, honest people that really are all about helping each other, right? I mean,
Exactly.
I think really in the scheme of things, isn't that why we're put on this earth?
Yes. Exactly. To be kind and honest, I think I did something. I think we met over that book intro that I did for Barbara
Yes. I
about
love
kindness.
Barbara. Barbara Vera Cruz.
Yeah, that's right. I said kindness is to me it's like breathing. It's so easy to give. In fact, you have to make an effort not to be kind. I believe. I think it's like a human trait that we're kind of born with. But of course, based on different people's experiences through life, whether it's to do with trauma or whatever, it's that holding back from kindness that I'm not going to be kind because I'm going to be walked over.
Right.
But you never know, the next person next to you, you might be unkind to someone that did not make you become unkind in the first place. Some innocent person on the street or sitting next to you on the train, on the plane, they didn't put you through any kind of difficulty. So why would you take out that bad experience that you had on that person next to you on the plane or on the train or walking along you in the shop, for example. They might reciprocate in a completely different way. And there's so many stories of someone being kind to someone and said, "Oh, actually, can you help me with this?" Or "I'm looking for someone to do this," and it's changed their lives completely. So, why not?
Again, it's that whole thing. You just don't know.
Yeah,
Just a simple conversation can make a difference for someone.
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And yes, I love the kindness is like breathing. I remember you saying that during her book launch. And that was one of the things that really stuck with me in your talk. And that's before you and I actually knew each other.
Yes.
So, again, think about it. It's that small little pebble that got thrown into the stream.
Yeah.
It's created all these. And so now my audience is also it's going to have the pleasure of hearing you as well. So, and learning from you. So I want to ask you this. What makes you a rule breaker? Because I think you're a rule breaker. What makes you a rule breaker?
I think not in doing the same thing twice, always trying to challenge different things. And when I mean challenge, I don't mean like in a negative way. Just, we talked about curiosity earlier on and just saying, well, why can it be like this? Or why does it have to be like that? And like if I talk about my journey going into becoming some kind of coffee expert, was, I used to drink like, I don't want to say normal bad coffee all my life, like instant coffee, but then I had a different coffee experience and I said to someone, I never knew coffee could taste like this. Why does it taste different? Why does it taste differently?
There's a big difference, isn't there, between like an instant type of coffee versus some
Yeah, I mean,
nicer coffee?
I just got curious. And I started a lot of research. It took me like 5, 6 years of research. I was like, oh, coffee can taste like this. It can be very pleasant. I can actually drink coffee without sugar. I never knew that could happen. I could drink coffee without milk sometimes. I just got more and more curious about it. I thought, okay, maybe I should share this with I should share this with the world. So I started writing about coffee. I thought, okay, maybe I should open up a coffee shop. So I did that. I moved to Cape Town with my family about 13 years ago. We were in Cape Town for about 3 years. We put up a coffee shop. So, I want to serve people really great coffee. And when I had my coffee shop, I converted some tea drinkers into coffee drinkers. Because they always thought coffee has to always be bitter and disgusting. And you have to have like 5 spoons of sugar. And I said, no. So I said, taste this coffee. If you don't like it, it's on me. No problem. And they're like, oh, why does your coffee taste differently? What did you do to us? I said, I didn't do anything, but I just made it in a different way. So I think, I mean, I'm just sharing my experience with coffee, but I think that can appeal to everything in life, whether it's what Steve Jobs did, for example, or for example, what Elon Musk has done with first principle thinking, like, why do I have to buy a rocket? Why can't I make a rocket? Is there a rule against, do I have to buy a rocket for like $100 million? Can I make one for $50 million? Yes, you can, but no one's done that. Well, why can't I
Right.
do that? So you can apply that to other things in your life. And you say,
Absolutely.
you can't become like that. Why not? What do I need to do to become that? Even when I talk about my coffee journey again, like going back to the concept about where you're going. Let's say you're trying to get someone 10,000 miles, but how do I get there? Or do I need to know how to read a map? Do I have to learn how to drive? Do I have to buy a ticket? So those are what I call the skills. You need to acquire the skills for your journey as well. So even if I love coffee, I love the taste, it still took me like 5 years of self-learning to become confident that I can have a conversation with a coffee expert and I can actually own a coffee shop and I can actually brew great coffee. It wasn't something that said, oh, I can do this now. No, it still took me 5 years to do that, 5 years of learning. Going back to that concept of the 10,000 hour rule. So, trying to learn something for 10,000 hours. And I think if you're passionate about something, you would find it very easy to learn about something that really motivates you.
Absolutely. I think the learning becomes easy when you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, not necessarily, it could be something really hard,
Yeah.
but it just becomes easier because you're so passionate and excited about it. I have one more question for you. So, if you could give me one really great outcome that happened to you after you won your Nobel Peace Prize, what would it be?
So when my colleagues and I were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005, it's actually the award actually comes with it's actually $1 million, but the head of the organization gave me 20% of that money to help with the establishment of Zambia's first cancer hospital. Um, And I used that to train some oncologists, for example, at the hospital. And those oncologists to see them going through the training and then see the hospital actually open and then see them treating cancer patients. Because before that hospital, anybody that had cancer in Zambia basically just passed away. They didn't even have an option. Even one cancer hospital is not enough for a population of like 40 million people. You need about, you're supposed to have at least one hospital roughly or machine per million people. So you need at least, 6 or 7 or 8 centers. But at least it gave hope to people that never had any hope. If they had cancer, that was basically a death sentence. So I think so that was really, I think, rewarding to see that kind of impact. And we went back to what you said earlier on, yes, it treats roughly 1,500 people a year. But even if it was treating one person, that's just one person's life rather than that was saved instead of 0, for example. And especially what happens in Africa a lot is a lot of women, by bigger proportion, get cancer. And in some communities, especially in Africa, the woman is like the center of the household. So if the woman passes away, the impact on the children of the community is quite severe in terms of education, just running the whole home and everything like that. So, saving more women, for example, in a community like that has a really big impact on that society as well.
Wow. So obviously you've made a big impact, and that also, I mean, that made a big impact as well too. So that's amazing. Congratulations to you for doing something so important and affecting so many people as well. So let me ask you this, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm quite prominent on LinkedIn. I share a lot of my thoughts on LinkedIn. In fact, someone that followed me initially called me an intellectual philanthropist because I'm always sharing like lots of ideas. So that name came from someone I just used the name on my profile. But on LinkedIn, I talk a lot about different things to do with either sometimes to do with climate change or just to do with personal development, especially being more introspective in your life, trying to go for not settling for what you have in your path. And just trying to push the boundaries within yourself so that you, at the end of the day, I think if I can help anybody reach the end of their life and say, at least I'm happy that I tried, I gave it my best shot to live a fulfilling life. And I think that would be fantastic for me to hear, because I just think that we only have one life and you should try your best to live it to the best possible way, in tandem with what I call your heart, because I think your heart doesn't lie in a way. Your heart is like the source of, knowledge and truth. And what happens is people try and drown out that noise that comes from the heart or the intuition. Say, no, no, don't. I'm not listening to you. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it that way before it's too late. So that's one of the things that I would say.
Wow, that's so fantastic. So many mic drop moments in this interview. I have to thank you for being here, and for everyone that's listening out there, I want you to think about some of the things that Lameen mentioned. First off, he said, birth of passion is curiosity. And so if you start thinking about different things in your life that you might be curious about, and even going back to what was your passion when you were 10 years old or younger? What was the thing that when you were a little kid, you just jumped out of bed and you were so excited to do? Let's see, for 2024, can we reignite that passion and then take that passion and try to make a difference in the world? And even if you can do it for a day or a moment during your week or your month or whatever it might be, you can make a difference in the world. It's just like what Lameen said, and you've all heard me say this probably a million times, is like throwing a rock into the stream and seeing the ripple effects. You can do the same in your business and in your daily life. You can affect people. And so again, just reignite your passion, make a difference in this world. And I want to thank my special guest, Lameen. You've really been a great pleasure to have here today. And I'm just looking forward to our future conversations as well.
Definitely, Kathy. Thanks so much for inviting me to share whatever I've been blessed with your listeners. And obviously looking forward to having more conversations with you too.
Thank you so much.